We're all works in progress. Join me, Jenn Hart, as I wander creator spaces across the U.S. to meet artists, musicians, makers, and creatives of all kinds, to hear their stories and to find out what inspires them. We'll also play a game of 10 questions. Keep track if you like, and we'll count them up at the end. The nice thing is that the only one that can really lose this game by not getting to 10 is me. And we all get to win by meeting some seriously talented people. I can only see good things coming. Grit and gratitude. If there is one warning, piece of advice, a nugget of information from my journey so far I could pass on, it is this. When you start a business, embark on an endeavor, make a goal, or decide to try something new, it will require you to exert enormous grit. From my own experience and that of talking with many other founders, both on this show and off of it, like Whit of the Wild Collective, who completely echoed these sentiments and more during our sit down. Arm yourself with determination, because these aspirations we have are hard. Whit's experience is one of wonder and toughness. She's a mother, a CEO, a creator, and a total boss babe. Her story and advice made me reflect on my own journey as Heart House Creative celebrated its 7-year anniversary last month. So crazy. It's really crazy to say out loud. To create from nothing requires us to dive into the unknown. I came into all of this knowing how to tell you how to create a memorable visual identity for your brand, come up with concepts for advertising, or user-friendly design to attract website visitors in a snap. But payroll and sales tax filings and different business insurances and company benefits, setting up a 401k, training and coaching a team, hiring that team, and all of the steps that come with that. The list goes on and on of these things that I did not know. I didn't even know that I needed to know them most of the time until they were upon me. I don't say this to scare you, because I do know how to do all of those things now and more. Though in the same breath, I will say that I also know there's still much for me to learn, and there always will be. I say that with confidence. I expect it now. I say this to encourage you, though, lovely listener, lovely listener, and I hope you hear me when I say embrace the unknown. Find someone with the answer, push through the hard stuff, and find a way. If I can do it, so can you. Part 2 of this equation, be always grateful. If you hear yourself complaining, just put a lid on it. Just simply put a lid on it. You're being given, or maybe you have created, an opportunity to build something. Recognize that. Applaud it. But know that your attitude towards the work is always going to be visible in it. And in that way, business is a lot like life. Expect the unexpected. Grit and gratitude. Our goal is, and will continue to be, to seek out the most unique and creative people we can find. By those standards, I am not sure we could have found anyone better than the lovely Whitney Bansin. In addition to being the founder, CEO, and lead designer of the Wild Collective, which pushes the boundaries of sustainability and sportswear for fan apparel, she's also the founder of One Love,
which is an agency that helps celebrities and top clients around the world style. And she's also a wife and a mother and a friend to people all over Las Vegas because she's been here for 25 years, which is a long time. So welcome to the show. I'm so excited. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. You finally get to
I know.
see it all in action.
Get a peek behind the curtain of the Wild Collective. I know I kind of know the backstory already of how this all came to be, but for people that are tuning into this, can you tell us how this kind of dream came to life? Like, what was the seed that started this?
So what's interesting enough is I was never in the sports world at all, and I didn't play sports growing up. Living in Vegas, we didn't have any pro leagues. We didn't have any teams really outside of like UNLV.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really an industry that I knew much about. But when the Vegas Golden Knights came to Vegas,
Changed everything.
kind of changed everything. And I was already dabbling in apparel at that time, and it kind of sparked this idea to be like, well, like what else is there? If the Golden Knights are here and everyone's clamoring for cool merchandise and there wasn't really a lot out there, it felt like a big opportunity for us to kind of create something, go after it.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it just snowballed.
Yeah, change the game. So for everyone that's tuning into this, Whitney is the one that created those amazing gold Vegas Knights jackets that everyone is obsessed about, and I don't think you can even find them anymore. They're sold out, right?
So what's interesting about the sequin jacket is the initial sequin jackets were just gold, and they didn't even have logos on it. I didn't have an NHL license.
Yeah.
We were just selling gold jackets through the casinos. So if you were going to a Knights game and you walked through MGM or you walked through Caesars, you would like be hit with these gold sequin jackets.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, perfect, let's wear it to a game.
You were Vegas hockey at that point.
Yeah, so it just like really turned into this like cool, unique concept of like, why is there not better fashion fan apparel out there? More fashion forward stuff that you can wear more on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
And we actually ended up creating an official Golden Knights sequin jacket, which is sold out, so you can't get it. We will likely release it for next season.
Okay.
But so it was really this gold sequin jacket that just really
Kicked off the whole thing.
kicked everything off.
And did the team approach you to do something for them then, or did you have to go after them?
Yeah, I hunted them down. I hunted down the buyer from the Golden Knights. Her name's Teresa. She's still actually with the Golden Knights, so it's
amazing.
kind of fun that like she's kind of seen our journey
Yeah.
and us grow, and she's so supportive and has always
love
been,
that so much.
such a fan of what we do. I hunted her down and had some ideas, and she was game to try them. And once we released our first collection, I think it really just kind of took off and spread, and all these teams across every league started reaching out. And so it kind of went to like, okay, well, we're in hockey now. We should try and reach out to other hockey teams. Or what about baseball? What about Major League Baseball? What about NFL and NBA? Like there's so much, it just seemed like the world was our oyster at that point. So we started kind of going after everything.
Well, because I mean, the merch, like there's merch for every team, but they're always kind of tragic. So like what you've done is really reinvented that fan wear.
Yeah, I think it's important to like buy a piece that has quality and that you can wear over and over and over again, and it still looks like the first day you bought it. I think that's probably a misconception with sports licensing in general, is a lot of it, they do make a lot of stuff for like wear to one game kind of situation, call it a day. And we really wanted to create more of a fashion streetwear lifestyle brand out of the sports apparel, where you can rep your team any day. It doesn't have to be a game day, but it's also something that speaks to your fashion aesthetic, right? I think the biggest problem that we saw was it really felt like fan gear. And that's probably the thing that we try and stay away from the most, is actually having full like fan gear apparel. For us, it's more lifestyle fashion apparel.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And it's also, I think, too, really cool that you've created kind of a niche also for people that are going to the game with the person that's a fan, right? So like for me, my husband is an Eagles fan. I like going to games, but I'm not like necessarily like a diehard Eagles fan. Sorry, babe.
Well, there's actually an entire demographic, and we are actually the same. So I'm a +1 fan. You're a +1 fan.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we did our research on too was that +1 consumer, and that consumer wanting to be a part of the game. You're more so going for the experience of it. You don't really care who wins or loses a bit. You're kind of just there to socialize. You want to have drinks. You want to eat. You want it to be an overall experience. You want to be part of it.
Dog.
Yeah. You just want to be a part of it. And so I think that's a really important demographic that we've really leaned into. I mean, I'm the +1 fan, right? Like I'm going for all of the things. Obviously, if I'm going to a Vegas Golden Knights game, I hope they win.
Yeah.
But it doesn't alter my,
your mood for the week.
mood for the week if they lose. But it's been really fun to kind of grow that demographic and really hone in on this consumer that's really hasn't been served product for a long time.
At all, really. And I mean, for me, like I'm totally willing to I'll sport the thing if it's cute and I'll wear it in other places. So really for these teams, buying into what you're selling they've got to have seen, an uptick in, their awareness and all of the things that, drive their business too. So it's so smart.
Yeah, we just had this jacket that it's a sweater that I just posted on LinkedIn. It's for the Colorado Avalanche. And this is our first season actually doing product for the Avalanche.
Oh, cool.
And the buyer had reached out and he said, like in his 26 years he's been doing this, he's never seen a piece sell out so fast.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
So it's like those moments of like wins where you're like, okay, yes, like what we're doing is right.
It's tracking.
It's tracking. There's different moments in the evolution of what we do. Like, I just pulled Hannah, who works for us. I pulled her into my office because we have some shots that just came back from a shoot we just did. And when you see it done the right way and it's executed properly and you see those lifestyle images and you see what you're doing all come full circle. It's like, yes, this is what we wanted. Like those are those moments where it's just
you can breathe for a minute.
You're like, okay, I am doing something cool. We are building something really great here.
It's definitely cool. So I'm curious too, because building a business is hard, right? And so
it's very hard.
I'm sure like most people are seeing like those wins, right? Like you're celebrating on social, but like what are some of the challenges you faced? Because I could imagine that there's been many, especially dealing with major sports teams where their licensing and all of that is super complicated. And
I mean, there's a multitude of things that can arise on a daily basis. That is the one hard thing I feel like about sports is you can have like a lot of wins and then you can have some losses in there. And I think obviously I care so deeply about the business and what we're doing that I do take some of it like almost personal. I take it home with me. Yeah. So, there are certain teams. I'm sorry to tell you, your Eagles is one of them.
Sorry, Jim.
There are certain teams that their Pantone color looks different in every material. It looks different in embroidery than it does in a print. It looks different in different fabrics and different lighting. So, like, when you have a piece and you have that teal green and you want it to hit and make sure everything lines up,
super hard.
It's super hard and it will drive you mad. Like there are certain teams like Vikings purple drives me mad. Eagles drives me mad. I'm trying to think. 49ers, they're gold. It's not a real bright gold. It's more of a dull gold, and that gets tricky.
Okay.
Golden Knights, I'm a big proponent of bright, beautiful gold for the Golden Knights. So I think that's why a big reason why our product sells so well and why VGK loves working with us is because they know I always hit their gold. Like I always make sure that like it is dialed in. No one wants some mustardy green looking gold. No one wants that.
No. Keep the booger green.
So that's definitely something we've honed in on. So colors can obviously be an issue. Production timelines, obviously, you're dealing with Chinese New Year a lot, and you're dealing with boating stuff in. We had a couple orders this year for Chinese New Year that we had, I don't know, like maybe 5 to 10 pallets on a boat headed from China to LA, and the shipment got delayed 4 times. So it got literally put on a boat, removed from a boat, put back on a boat, removed from a boat,
and they're
put
like
back
watching
on a boat.
it ping pong
And there was nothing we could do. They wouldn't let us remove it from the boat. They wouldn't let us do anything. And so we felt very like kind of trapped, because it's like, what do you do? There's nothing you could do.
Right.
And obviously you have the pressure of the teams who want delivery at a certain date because they have opening day.
Yeah, they're planning for those drops to hit.
Yeah. Luckily we have a lot of like really great partners. So I feel like, you know, everyone for the most part is pretty understanding when stuff arises. But I've had the few teams here and there that it's just not even a question. If it's late, it's late. They won't even take it.
That's terrible. Is that something, so I want to talk about the sustainability piece too, because I know that was something that you built into the company, and that's something that's super important to me too. Like I just think if we're going to be putting stuff out in the world, we have to think about how that is impacting everything else.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely try and use organic when we can.
Yeah.
I think the sports industry needs a few years.
Yeah.
It's definitely not something right out the gate that I think, like, I couldn't all of a sudden turn the whole company into organic and be able to get there. But the goal is definitely to get there in the next, 3 to 5 years, be in a position where we can be really smart about sustainability and making sure that everything that we do kind of like centers around that. But yeah, sustainability has gotten easier, but the cost
it's expensive.
It's very expensive. And then, you also look at margins, right? Like we have licensing fees. We have to pay the leagues 100%. And everyone on everything that we do. So cutting your margins it's tight.
Yeah.
It can get really tight.
For sure. I think that's a super smart way to approach it though, and honestly, like it's a very like reasonable way to approach it, which I think is how we can make that change like globally, right? So, it's not going to be overnight. Like we're not all just going to start, everything's recycled, everything's sustainable, everything is, globally satisfying and helping everything, because there are economics involved, and like we can't just turn a switch and that's how it works. But so cool that like you're almost like working from the inside, right? So like you're creating these relationships, and then a huge organization like a sports team getting behind something like that, the impact could be huge, because that's when those prices start to fall on those things, because you have a lot of need for it, right?
And that's the goal. The goal is just to get there. But as with every business, I feel like it's more of a long-term goal.
For sure. Yeah, you're playing that long game.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that it wasn't always about sports apparel for you. Like that was kind of something you saw an opportunity in, but you've been involved in fashion for a long time, right?
Yeah. So when I was 19, I graduated from college. I started One Love Agency, which is a hair, makeup, and styling firm. I still own it to this day. So I still book out artists and do all the things. But yeah, I worked with a lot of celebrities. I ran the hair and makeup department at Zappos for like 7 years. And I was around fashion and all the things, was always very interested in it. But I wanted to go to fashion school right out of high school, but I was 16 when I graduated.
Oh, wow.
So where was I going at 16? Like I didn't even know how to do my own laundry. I didn't even know what a check was.
Yeah.
So I knew, and they didn't really have fashion schools here. So I knew like if that was the play, I would have had to go somewhere and go to school, and I just wasn't in position to like up and leave at 16. So I went to college for business, studied business, and while I was studying business, I worked at MAC as a makeup artist. My cousin's a very famous makeup artist in Canada. I actually just saw her recently. We hadn't seen each other in a very long time. But she was kind of an inspiration to me to fall into makeup and to kind of go down that path. And so I've always had that production background, and always kind of had an eye for things. And I was just making private label product for a lot of the hotels while I was still at Zappos.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I also had this other collection called Crimes of Beauty. So it was like funny stuff on stuff.
Yeah.
Like one of the shirts that kind of like threw me into the rabbit hole of going into apparel. I was at Nordstrom and I saw this shirt that said, "I eat glitter for breakfast." And I just thought it was so funny because in the makeup world, like when glitter spills, it is everywhere. And I'm saying like you're like 2-3 years later, you're still finding it in crevices and in places. And I just thought it was so funny. And I was like, oh, it was kind of like around the time when everyone was putting funny sayings on things.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, like let me turn this into a little bit of a business. So I created this kind of side business that's what we were doing. And we were doing like makeup bags and shirts and all the things. We sold on HSN. We were on QVC. Yeah. And then I kind of started to fall a little bit out of the beauty space a bit. Beauty turned a corner at that point in time where it became very like Instagram heavy. Okay. Look at me doing my makeup type vibes. And I really wasn't that person. I wasn't like, get ready with me. Like, that's not me. Mm-hmm. And it didn't feel authentic. So I started to kind of push out of that industry and pushed a little more into the fashion side. Yeah. And then once I fell down the sports rabbit hole, then
you're like, okay, here we are.
Yeah. And I love it. I love that, like, I think that's a big part of why our brand has been so successful is I came into it not really knowing much about sports. Yeah. And I came in with a different eye. I came in with like a totally different frame on apparel and what it should look like. And if you're going to a game, like what should you be wearing? And I think that's a test to our success for sure.
Needed a fresh perspective. Yeah. Definitely. Do you feel so like you're also a mom, which is mind blowing. Like you have all this huge business that you're running also. And what a cool and amazing example to set for your kids too, to like, you're growing this business from scratch. Do they understand? Like, do they know what you're doing?
I think so. I mean, maybe the little one, not as much. She's 5, so maybe not as much as, say, the 9-year-old. But the 9-year-old's, like, she's pretty in tune. She gets it. They'll sometimes like draw out like, Mommy, I think for the Raiders you should do something like this.
Cute.
And they'll like mock up a little like sketch of like what they think, and then I'll be like, okay, well great, like I'll share it with the Raiders. I'll let you know what they say.
Oh my gosh, so cute.
So I think they're definitely aware. They, obviously getting the new office, they love coming over here and hanging out. They think it's really cool that like we have a space now, because prior to us getting the office, everyone was remote. So I was working out of my house. So, like, we had clothes for days, boxes for days everywhere. My office just looked like someone threw up in it, basically, because it just was stuff everywhere. So, I actually would say, though, taking the business out of my home was probably the best thing we did.
Okay.
It was probably the thing that really centered me a bit, because when it was in our home, and my husband works for us as well, so he's the COO. So obviously everything goes through him and I, and you just could never escape it. You could never leave it. We would be walking to the bathroom and see a jacket sitting there and be like, oh, you know what? I had this idea. And it's like...
And you've got to write it down, because you'll lose it if you don't, right?
Write it down. Or we sit on the computer and we're like, well, let's research this. Like, let's try and find this. Or
2 hours gone.
Yeah, it just never ended. And I just felt like it was very hard to disconnect.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. It was like, how do you balance that? Because with 2 kids and this full-blown business, and you and your husband both being involved in it, that's got to be tricky.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. It's definitely a game we play. It's a little bit of a cat and mouse. Like, who's getting the kids today? Who's picking up who? What's happening? Do they have soccer? Do they not? I mean, there's no denying that at this stage of life, with 2 younger kids, I mean, it's absolute chaos all the time. Yeah. Like, every day is a new situation.
But, like, good chaos, right? I mean...
it's a little much at times. I'm not gonna front. We're pretty tired. Like, when we get home and we've had, like, a long day, or I feel like I've had a lot of Zoom calls. I feel like Zoom calls take a lot out of me. Like, just talking and talking. And it's just, like, sometimes you're just like, no, I'm good. Like, I don't want to talk anymore.
You're like, someone else can go.
I have nothing left. But, I think as we grow and scale the business, bring on more people, I've been able to shift some of my stress off.
Yeah, that
I'm sure Kelly's behind me laughing and giggling, because she was a big part of that, in bringing her on full time to really help me. And she knows me so well. Like, we just laugh and giggle all the time because like she knows my isms. She knows like when Whit's pissed. She knows like what I need when I need it. If I just stand up and I'm like, I have to leave. Like she knows what that means, and she's like, "Okay, bye, Whit. Like all good.
Give her
like,
a minute.
Yeah, give her a minute." And she travels with me all the time, so
amazing.
we become very close, friends. And we were friends prior to her working with us. So it's just like such a dream that she was able to come on board with us.
Yeah.
Like that's really, I always like thought when she was traveling with me prior to Wild Collective and on the Crimes of Beauty side, she would come do the trade shows with me.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was always like, God, like, how could I just get her like full time? So she's like always with me. Cause to do all this and not have that person.
Yeah, it's really hard.
It's hard. And obviously my husband can't travel with me because he has to stay home with the kids. So it was really important that like for my sanity, I have that person that can be with me all the time. And, she probably gets sick of me at some point, throughout the course of a 3 or 4 day trip. But we just have so much fun and we are on the same energy. So I think being on the same wavelength is really important in finding someone that can help balance you on the work side. Like we are very much like when we travel, like we have a trip coming up next week and it'll be like, let's go to some amazing dinner, like bomb dinner, like find the best place in town. And then immediately go back to the hotel, jammies on, in bed, and we're like trying to like watch a movie. Yeah, like that's us. Like we're
chill, get ready for the next
day.
day.
Like sometimes
I love that vibe.
She has her jammies on before I've even like,
taking your shoes off.
Yeah, she's like already ready. But we're on that same wavelength, so I think it works.
That really helps. It's so we were talking about this a little bit before we started the show, just having people that you can trust on your team and that can kind of fill those voids. And when you do start delegating stuff out, that's a hard thing sometimes to let go. Like I can totally relate to that, and just it's a game changer when you start adding people to your team and realizing like, oh, I don't have to literally do everything myself anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did that tipping point happen for you? Like, was there a moment, or was it just like a gradual kind of like, okay, now we're going to try and add someone?
You also are in survival mode in the point where you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
It's not going to get done unless you do it.
Yep.
So I've tried to get better at delegating. I've always my husband always refers to me as like a lone wolf, which can be good and can be bad.
Yeah.
The lone wolf is good because I go off and I just
get it
run.
done.
I get it done. I handle my shit. I don't worry about anyone else. Like that's the benefits of a lone wolf. And I can grow and scale things at a very fast pace. The problem with the lone wolf is I'm not good at delegating. Sometimes I've tried to get better, but it's a learned skill. I'm kind of the mindset where it's like, well, I'll just do it. I can do it faster.
Yeah.
But then I'm not teaching someone how to do
the
it.
mentoring.
So my poor husband, who got thrown into apparel, which he doesn't even like fashion really. Like it was never his thing. But he's here and he's obviously he definitely there's parts of it he really likes. I think
he likes it more than he lets on.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he gets really excited about certain things, and I'm like, okay, like it's not bad, right?
Yeah,
we can do this.
Yeah.
But he's really here to support my dream, right?
That's
like
so
he's
cool.
here to once this thing kind of turned the corner, it was like I need someone as my right hand that can help me with all the things financially, all the things that happen in a day.
Yeah, there's so much.
And I really needed that support, and it just made sense for him to come on board. I mean, he would never go back to the corporate world. That's never in the cards for him again. But he did it, and he had a great run in sales, and he, I think the family time that we have now is really precious. Obviously, being able to disconnect from work is still a problem.
Because it's running in your head, right?
It's never
hard
stops.
to turn off.
Yeah.
I love that he was willing to make that jump with you, though. That's so cool in a partner to have that,
I don't think he had a choice, to be honest. I think looked at me one day and saw that I was crumbling inside. You know what I mean? Like the stress of, because when he had his corporate job, you have to remember, I was running the company doing, wearing 10 different hats, plus picking up the kids from school, bringing them home, doing their homework, feeding them. And then he would walk in the door every day.
Oh, man.
So, and then the other thing about sports, which is interesting, and just our industry in general, is so much happens in a day.
Yeah.
The amount of crazy conversations that happen in a day, and I'm talking like crazy. He would walk in and I would just unload on him. And I'd be like, oh my God, so this happened, and then that happened, and then this and this. And then later on that night, I'm hitting him with all this other stuff I forgot happened.
Yeah.
Because so much happened. And now that he's in it, he like totally gets it. Like I remember at one point he was like, okay, so like financially, like where are we looking to pace this month? What he wanted, like fucking dialed in numbers. Okay. And I tried explaining to him, this business is so fast paced. Like I can give you a roundabout number, but I can't be exact. Like we're getting
ballpark.
Yeah. We're getting in like orders every day, every 5 minutes that like, I don't know. Like I think we're at this, but like we could be more.
Yeah.
I mean, and he hated that answer. He hated that I didn't know. And then when he came on board, he was like, I totally get it. He's like, I go, now do you see when you asked me where we're at? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I think we're here. Now he sees why.
Okay. So that understanding maybe helped the relationship a little bit too.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. He also, I mean, obviously he knew I was a hustler. He knew that like I was going to scale this thing. And I think he knew he had to be along for the ride, or I mean, what's the alternative?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's one of the things he loved about you, right? So like he knew what he was getting into. What is one of the craziest things you've heard on a call? Can you share one with us?
On a call,
or like in your day to day?
I mean, the crazy things for me is like, having like the CEO of another company, like a big brand, like reach out and be like, hey, we'd love to work with you, or we'd love to partner with you.
Like,
I'm like
the little kid
that's kind of crazy.
Right?
Like obviously a lot of it has to do with my LinkedIn. I'm still trying to get paid from LinkedIn actually.
Cool.
I would like to be a paid mentor in the space. I feel like a lot of people just in business in general don't utilize LinkedIn the way they should be. I've developed quite the following. It's the social media platform I like. I'm not really like a huge Instagram, Facebook, all that. Like I love LinkedIn because it's business focused.
Right.
It's all about business and you can connect with anyone. Like the fact that you can reach out to the CEO of PacSun.
Yeah.
Or the CEO of Speedo or name a brand. Like that's crazy. Like imagine building a business 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
What are you cold calling?
How
do you find these people?
And how do you get to them?
How do you get to them?
Yeah.
So I think I'm still trying to get paid from LinkedIn. So if anyone hears this who works for LinkedIn, I'd love to work with you.
Call it.
Yeah, call me. But it's just such an amazing platform, and so I've definitely used that to my advantage into building the brand, connecting with people all across the industries. I love tying in people into sports that like maybe aren't your typical brand or celebrity or whatever it is. Like I like not doing what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
So that's always my goal.
That speaks to the success you're having, I think, too, is that you're not just following the trends, you're setting the trends. So
yes.
Speaking of that, I think I saw on your website that you have did a collab with Free People. Is that?
Yes.
What a cool idea to do a collab with
Okay, so you want to talk
sportswear.
about a crazy email. So we were still working at home. So my husband was across from me. We both have an office together. So he has his desk across from me. And I'm like literally on the computer and the email comes in. And it was like, hey, Whitney, this is so-and-so from Free People. We would love to connect and see if you want to do product with us. I literally screamed.
Freaking out. I mean,
and Louis like runs over and he was like, what? Like he thought it was bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, read this email. And he literally looks at me and he's like, you can die now. And I was like, yep. Because literally since I was in college, I've been rocking Free People. Like, it has
that's so
always,
cool.
always been one of my favorite brands. I remember shooting it at Zappos, and I just, like, loved everything a part of it.
What a full circle moment. Oh my
Such
gosh.
a full circle moment.
That's
Like,
so...
and every time I talk to them, I still remind them, like, how freaking giddy
You're like
I
a
am that this is
fangirl.
even happening. But what's so cool about Free People and what they do is, this is kind of how I feel. I feel like some of the stuff I do for Free People, if I were to show that to the sports buyers, they might not get it.
Right.
But Free People is so dialed in with their consumer and what their consumer is looking for that I can do those fashion pieces, those off the wall ideas, and it totally works.
Yeah.
And they shoot it and they execute it in such, like, precision.
Right.
Whereas, like, the sports teams would be like, what? Why? I don't know.
What
I
are we
don't get
doing
it.
with this?
What are we doing with this? I don't get it. We're just going to put it in the store. So, like, what? No one's going to buy that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really opened up the conversation of fashion, sports.
Who else can we work with, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's definitely opened the door to a lot more collaborations. We have a lot happening in the works that I'm really excited about. We also did did you see the collab with Kiss and the New York Rangers?
No.
So we did Kiss was doing their farewell tour, and their last 2 dates were at MSG in New York.
Cool.
And so we teamed up with Universal, and we did this whole collection for the New York Rangers and Kiss, and it mashed together this amazing...
That must have been so much fun to design.
It was so fun. Our designer, like, totally crushed it. And they had a line out the door wrapped around MSG.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
then buyers from the Knicks and Rangers were, like, texting me. They're like, Whitney, this is insane. Like, people are just, like, literally grabbing, like, 5 of everything, and just, like, it was insanity.
Oh my gosh.
That, I ended up talking to Universal later on, and they had said that that collection that was, like, when it was announced and all the press from it had 2 billion impressions.
Holy moly.
So that music side ended up actually pushing us more into music. So now we're working on a lot of new music collaborations as we speak, because it will, like, open up this door of, like, like, why aren't we doing more badass, like, music shit? Like, why not?
And
why not?
And by the way, it works.
It works.
Now we've got proof of concept.
We have proof of concept.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I can't wait to see who I'm going to be following to see who the next.
Yeah.
That's also really cool to kind of also another full circle for you, because you're styling celebrities and, you know, artists already, and then now coming back into your business, you're almost getting to combine the two together, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been very, very interesting to kind of see that side of it. Or there'll be, like, a celebrity that maybe I did makeup on, like, years and years ago, who I'll see rocking Wild Collective, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's so cool. Do you have a favorite, like, piece that you've made yet, or is it hard to pick one?
I think hands down it's probably the jacquard sweater.
Those are so cool.
I just think they took on a life of its own. I think that knitwear wasn't very much a thing in the space, and I think we created a lane for it and really delivered on the quality and material and the design aesthetic from it. And I just think that consumers really, like, gravitated towards it.
Yeah, I actually went on your site before, when we found out we were going to interview you, to look for the Eagles one that you have on there, and it's long gone. It's long gone. So I was like, oh, I should have got that when it first came out.
I believe there's a crew neck coming. Actually, no, I lied. There's 2 coming out. I think there's a full zip.
Okay.
One, I think we're doing it in their classic retro. And then there's a crew neck coming out too.
Okay, cool.
For next season.
The Kelly Green? That's going to go by like that.
Yeah, the Kelly Green. Honestly, if I could do all Eagles in Kelly Green.
I know.
Because the teal...
People love the Kelly Green.
I know. It's so much easier to hit, so I would, way prefer the green.
It's like a whole phenomenon. Like, people are clamoring for anything Kelly Green. There's, like, all of these, like, knockoff things now too that, like, have popped up trying to
Oh, they'll do like a Kelly green shirt that just says Philadelphia on it. Yeah.
I even saw one that was like, it looked like it was supposed to be a Philadelphia Eagle shirt, but they obviously don't have the licensing.
Oh, yeah.
So they just put like a bulldog on it. It's like not even the same like mascot. It was ridiculous. But we were walking out of, or near the stadium one day and saw that. So.
Oh yeah, funny. There's definitely a lot of, that's probably one thing that's a little frustrating, obviously, is there's a lot of DIY going on right now, and a lot of Etsy stuff. Like it that's why we started doing our wives collections and doing the collections with the teams, and really like honing in on like really cool, unique designs that the wives want to rock to games, because people care about what they look like. They care about what they are wearing to a game.
Yeah, they're watching.
But then they're just buying like a jacket on Etsy for like $500 and having it customized, when we could be working with them and really like dialing in a full collection and like putting out in retail and doing all the things behind it. So it makes a lot of sense. So we've had a lot of success with those.
That's got to be pretty fun too, because I would imagine, the wives of these players would be pretty stoked to work with you and get to essentially like design like a custom collection with you.
Yeah, so. It's been really fun. We've had a lot of teams put together some really great programs. We have a few more coming up for next season. And, I think it's important to really tie back the collections and have a really strong idea that the consumer can gravitate towards. Like, oh, okay, well, we see so-and-so at the games all the time. Her husband is so-and-so. We would love to like rock a piece that they were like a part of.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. So is there anyone that you want to work with that you haven't worked with yet, or like that you're eyeing? So like Free People was kind of like one of your dream, sounds like one of your dream companies.
Free People was dream. So I actually really love like the surf skate world. I love a dream brand is Stussy.
Okay.
I think Stussy just crushes and has crushed for many years, and they've really set the bar in terms of streetwear for a very long time. So I love Stussy. I love Amiri. I think Amiri does some really amazing, just super cool. Like the fact that they can get like men wearing sequins and crystals and shit like that just because of how they execute it, I think is really cool. I just think there's a lot of like really intelligent designs going into their collections. And who else? Like on the women's front, obviously I would love, so Free People, obviously we mentioned as like a retail and building out collections. I would love to work with Revolve. I think there's like amazing opportunity there to do some cool stuff. And then in terms of, musicians and stuff, I love tying in some of the rappers. We're working with a rapper right now on a possible collaboration. I think there's some fun stuff there, because you have a lot of these artists who like are true fans. Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense to like combine the two. Yeah, combine two and tie some of those pieces together. One of my favorite teams to work with, though, I have two favorite teams, and ironically, they're both in Texas.
Oh, okay.
So I love working with the Astros.
Okay.
You could literally, and I tell them this all the time, and they just laugh because they know it's true. You could literally put Astros on a trash bag and it will sell. At least the Wild Collective can. So I mean, I'm very close to just doing trash bags.
Yeah, you're like, we're gonna try this. And
I'm just gonna cut holes, one for the head, one for two arms, and we're gonna call it a day. The Astros are very dialed in on their retail. They know exactly who their consumer is. They push product like I've never seen.
They had a really good year last year too, right? So
I mean they've been on the uptick for the last probably 5 or 6 years, right? Like they won a World Series. They definitely have a lot of momentum. The rainbow colors for Astros just crush.
So fun.
I mean, they just sell out so fast. So Astros is one, and then the Dallas Cowboys. I think these two teams, the reason why I point them out is I have the most fun with them because I could literally do anything. Yeah. Whereas some other teams, like I do have to stay within some parameters because like certain things maybe won't work in that city or that consumer base wouldn't identify with. But Dallas Cowboys, I mean, you can do no wrong with the Dallas Cowboys.
It's a star.
It's a star. I mean, you literally can do anything, like, so genius, right? You can put it on anything.
Yeah.
I love, like, doing different embellishments. Every season, I put a lot of pressure on myself to up the collection from the year before.
Yeah.
So we've been hard at work this year and, like, really, like, dialing it in even further and making sure that, like, we're next level with it.
That's so cool.
So that's probably what I'm most excited about. And then obviously Beyonce just came out with this whole like cowboy.
And you're like, yeah,
I'm
Beyonce.
like, perfect. We are launching a Cowboys cowboy hats.
Oh, cute. Okay.
Which is super
That's going to be fun.
and different and
feel like
unexpected, but also
go, like,
why
hotcakes.
have we not done this? So yeah, lots of fun stuff with
my
those two
gosh.
teams. So those are two fun ones for me.
That sounds like a lot of fun. It makes a lot of sense too. Like you said, like the, you know, playing with a rainbow and like stars, like those are things like, especially I would imagine a lot of the +1, this is an assumption, so maybe I shouldn't be making it, but like that assumption that like a lot of +1s are probably female too. And like we tend to like those types of motifs. So, that's really cool. It's also, I like what you said before about some of the brands that you're kind of have aspiration to work with, that they're sort of also breaking through some of those boundaries of like those common, you know, what I just said, like the kind of common assumptions of like what a female might want to wear versus a male, or like, so it's cool that you're willing to play in that space and like, and break some of those rules. Have you seen that happen with your own collections? Like,
yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely been many pieces across the board that like a team probably took a risk on and then it ended up doing so well. And they're like, oh my God, we had no idea this was going to be like such a cool piece.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely that.
That's something I now that I'm thinking about it and I'm like going through the site, because I was just looking at the site again last night before the interview. A lot of the stuff that you do is unisex. So that's really cool that you're putting that stuff out there and people are just kind of,
I mean, I when I started looking at the industry, I was like, why are we really giving labels on these things?
No
like,
need.
for instance, so we have this Vegas Golden Knights cardigan that just, it's a phenomenon, I guess is what I would call it. And it sold out so fast and no one could get their hands on it. So we ended up reordering it. We did a pre-order, which sold out in a day.
Oh my gosh.
And then we got them in and we got in some extra units. And I had a cart going of like setting aside units for us, like physically. And I look up at Kelly and I was like, Kelly, like, we don't even have, like, we literally, I'm getting a medium, you're getting a medium. I'm going to share the medium with my husband because we don't even have enough units for me to have my own.
Oh, no.
Because they sold out so quickly. So it was just like, well, okay, here we go.
That's a good problem to have.
But that's the great thing about it being unisex, right? Like, him and I can just share it.
Yeah, exactly.
When I told him we were sharing it, he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, we're sharing.
You're like, just go with it.
Yeah, just go with it. But I think that's the testament of the brand is why put labels on things.
I totally
Everyone
agree.
has to, especially right now, I think females have really come into this masculine aesthetic a bit with streetwear and all the things. And we like things oversized sometimes. And sometimes we like things cropped and tight. And that's okay.
Right.
And I like to give a mix of a lot of different
People can
things.
kind of express themselves that's really kind of the crux of the brand, right? Is that you can express yourself however you want and also rep your team. So that's super cool. I love all of that. I was also thinking, so it might be interesting for people listening is there something you would give advice to them about? Like if they were starting their own brand? I mean, somebody coming up, maybe that's looking to do maybe not something similar, because I feel like I don't know how they would compete with this, but like,
don't come compete with me. Number one rule. No.
The wolf will bite you.
No, I think obviously the one big advice, which we kind of already touched on a little bit, is definitely LinkedIn. Like you got to use LinkedIn to your advantage for sure, and build your network there. The other advice, I read a lot of different articles from a lot of different entrepreneurs. And to be honest with you, I think the main thing that I keep going back to, and I do believe to be true, is most businesses fail because the CEO entrepreneur they basically give up.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard from a lot of big entrepreneurs is like when it gets tough and times are hard, if you have the grit to pull through, those are those moments when you know you can really continue this and build it and turn it into something. But I think it's the statistic is 3% of startups succeed.
Yeah. It's not an encouraging number for sure.
No, definitely not. But if you are someone who has that grit and aspiration and like can pull through those tough moments, I think that's probably one of the biggest things I would say to anyone starting a business is grit is probably one of the most important characteristics that you can have in building a business. And if you don't have grit, that might not be a good path for you. Yeah, it could crush you. Like I could honestly see how a lot of entrepreneurs just end up going crazy or lose their mind or end up, shuttering an entire business because they just can't handle the pressure. I mean, it's a lot. You have the weight of everyone on your shoulders. You have all your employees. You have all these teams and leagues that are, like in my case, all the leagues, like I have contracts that whether I produce one piece or not, I owe them X amount of dollars.
Yeah. For all
that's
the
a lot.
Fees. It's a lot.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is
to put on someone,
and to constantly. That's kind of goes back to you always got your mind going because you're trying to stay ahead of that wave, right? Like that could that crushing wave.
Wave. Yeah, and I think it's just knowing when to speak up, knowing when you need to ask for help, knowing having the right team obviously to support you, and knowing when you need to bring more people on. Like we are in a position right now where our growth and scale is very rapid and we are starting to hit the point of like, okay, we need to bring on someone for this and someone for this, and we really need to be strategic in those hires because it's so important to the
every
brand.
single person is so important at that point. That idea of pushing through, like, do you think, because, and this is something I've seen with my business as well, just like when you hit one of those points and you literally have a day where you're like, this might be it. Like, I don't know if I can go another day and do this one more day. Like, you have that moment and then you're like, nope, there's a way out. And then you find the way and you go forward. And then on the other side of that is usually something that's like so great, right? That level up is like right on the other side of that like crazy moment where you were like, oh my gosh, this is, you're literally either going to be crushed or you're going to, keep going.
And honestly, that's the life of an entrepreneur and owning your own business. I think there's always going to be moments of wanting to get out and just wanting to be done with it and move on to something else. And then there's obviously those moments where you're just like riding such a high that you're just like, fuck, I did this. Like I built this. This is so cool.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, I just think it's the roller coaster of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I do too. So in those moments when you have those, do you just take a deep breath? Like, what's your strategy for moving forward?
I try and separate myself from the situation.
Yeah.
Like, it could be I need to go on a drive or I need to physically leave the office. Like, if I look at one more jacket, I'm going to lose my mind. So it's just having the mental health to just understand your boundaries and knowing when it's okay to be in that slump.
Yeah.
And when you got to kind of like kick it into high gear, per se.
Just get through it.
Yeah.
A little bit of detachment, maybe practice there too.
Yeah, detachment's good. Not being near your phone as much, which is
that's
obviously
so hard,
super
right?
hard. And as that's the other thing too, is like everyone always, I think as the entrepreneur and CEO of a company, like you're always in this position where everyone needs something from you all the time. And so, even times when I'm home with the kids, I feel like I've given everything to everyone else. I don't even have anything to give to them.
Right.
Because I feel completely
And that's
drained.
that makes me feel guilty sometimes. I don't know about you, but like I can speak for me personally, like with my family, sometimes I'm just like, oh, man, like it's not fair to them, but so there's a play. Like you said, you find a balance too, where like, you can start to put some of those boundaries into place, and some days are better than others. You work through that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, no day is you're not going to have every day where everything goes right and everything works. I think that's part of life. But it's really just getting through the hard times and being able to honestly put your big girl pants on and just
push through.
I
I love that. I have where I feel like I've almost burned our whole hour, but I have so many other questions. So but I do have one that I love to ask, and I'm very curious about this one for you. Is I love to learn about how creatives kind of like first got into creative. So like, what do you remember as a kid? Like, what was something where you did or you were into that like first kind of sparked like, oh, you know what, I might be like an artist, or like I like to make stuff.
Fashion and beauty was always like, I was definitely always into it. Growing up as a kid, I think the beauty side for sure came from my cousin, because I like saw her doing all these cool photo shoots and stuff. And I was like, well, that sounds really cool. So I think that's how the beauty side started. And fashion, I was always intrigued with, like, you know, whether it's like an award show and what someone's wearing on the red carpet, or, you know, different like design elements of, you know, different generations, and how fashion really, you know, changes the way you feel. Like if you feel like the outfit you're wearing, or the, you know, the aesthetic that you're putting out there, like it gives you the confidence.
Yeah.
So I think that as a young kid, I kind of definitely gravitated towards that side of the world. And I didn't really know what I was going to do with it, to be honest. Like, if you would have asked me when I was, you know, younger, even 5 years ago, if I would be doing sports apparel, I would say absolutely not.
Yeah, you're like,
I would take every dollar in my bank account, and I'd be like, I will bet you.
You're like, put it on black.
Put on black. Like, I'm never going into sports.
Yeah.
But what's so fun about sports is, what I've actually really enjoyed is that there's a lot of women in the space that have really kind of uplifted each other in various ways. And I have a lot of support, whether it's with the leagues, whether it's with the buyers in the industry, different teams, like, I mean, I have direct text messages with so many women in the space. We're constantly talking. We've developed a friendship. There's a lot of respect there, but there's also a lot of support. And that's the one, I speak about it a couple times. I was just in a panel in Sacramento. I spoke about it there. I didn't feel the support in beauty the way that I feel the support in sports.
That's so cool.
So beauty is very catty. Everyone's after each other. Everyone's trying to snake each other's jobs. Like, it's very intense, and there's a lot of drama. Ugh. And it was very toxic. Yeah. I think, to be honest with you, I think a lot of that just made me kind of just want to shift out of it a bit. Yeah. Because it became too much. Right. Became very overwhelming. And in the sports world, like, I found like just this totally different experience that honestly I think has helped guide me in pushing forward. Right. Is I have all these women in the space who are like, wait, oh my God, this is so amazing. Like, we can't wait to work with you on this new collection. Like, I get hit up all the time from teams that, you got to remember, these teams could go to anyone. Yeah. They can be going to Nike. They can be going to these big brands in the space, and they're coming to me.
Yeah, they're trusting you to do this different thing, this cool thing.
Yeah, which is really cool. Yeah. So, and I have a lot of respect for the big brands, like the Nikes and Adidas and Under Armours of the world, like Puma, all of them. Like, I think, you know, they've set the stage of, you know, the industry, and really, like, I mean, you walk in some of these team stores, I mean, there's entire walls of product.
They're big for a reason. They're doing something right.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think, you know, we're just lucky enough that they have set the stage, and we've been able to kind of come in and complement like what they're doing. So yeah, I mean, if Nike were to hit me up, you know, sometime soon.
Nike, if you're listening.
Nike, if you're listening. And that's the thing, like, I have, like, there's Nike employees who buy our stuff and rock at the games, right? Like, I've connected with a bunch of Nike employees who are like, oh yeah, I bought this jacket for the Celtics game.
That's so cool.
You know, so it's, it's really cool that like there's respect.
Yeah.
Right?
People
like,
are like,
hey, I
digging what
see
you're
you.
doing. Mm-hmm.
I see what you're doing. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So,
and they're like rooting for you to succeed rather than, trying to.
100%. I have yet to meet anyone in the space who I felt like was like trying to tear us down.
I love that. That's kind of, that can be rare depending on what industry you're in. Not every industry is catty, but I think when you find one that you can have a group like that, I mean, that can only help you succeed. Everybody needs support. So
yeah,
especially on those days where you're pulling your hair out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, I think I just have one more, and then I'll let you go because I know you're super busy. Even though I could talk all day, I always like to ask our guests. We sort of play this like tag another creator kind of thing at the end. So I know I usually give people a heads up, but I apologize. But
do you need their actual like handle?
I can look it up if you give me their name. So
here, I can pull it up.
Yeah,
I have a good one for you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I would love one if you have one from Vegas and then one from anywhere that we could reach out to and maybe interview.
So the one from, hold on, let me go to my personal. The one, I'm going to give you one from LA.
Okay, cool.
Why do I always butcher her name? I'm so bad at, oh, here it is. Okay, ready?
Yes.
It's Kanani Mahi.
Oh, wow. You might have to spell that for me.
Exactly.
Maybe
works in
screenshot it.
Yeah, she's in the space too. We connected ironically through one of Louis, my husband, one of his childhood friends.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Like we just happened to like be at a baby shower together one day and we were chatting and she was like, oh, my friend, she was in sports. She's a designer, like she's a creative. She works in space.
Oh,
and
so cool.
We've developed a great friendship and she's really cool. So I would say her. And then Vegas. What you want it like? What kind of artist? Creative?
Any kind. So really my whole goal is to interview the most diverse group of creatives. It could be an artist. It doesn't even have to be necessarily like traditional, creative.
Okay.
Because I interviewed a scientist in Philadelphia that's quasi connected in the art world. She uses murals to help promote helping the earth and sustainability and all that stuff. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do Mark Mediana.
Okay.
So he is basically, I call him my brother.
Oh.
So we met through a mutual friend years and years and years ago. And I met Mark and I was like, oh, here's a guy who can actually like shoot and is like super like responsible and had his shit together. And we just like immediately connected and like literally I talked to him right before you came. Kelly actually just went to go get product from his studio. Aww. But we've just developed this like friendship and relationship. Like he's literally like a big brother to me.
I love that.
And his wife is amazing. His daughter is like what you hope your daughter would aspire to be at, 17, 18 years old. And he's just always been super supportive. So he's photographer. He has his agency in Vegas. Mm-hmm. They do a ton of graphic design and photo shoots and video and all the things. Yeah. And I would
amazing. And is he doing a lot of the shoots that you guys do for the team? Oh, that's so cool. Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely reach out then for that. Yeah, we're doing a cool thing. Hopefully to like, great people usually know other great people. So we figure that's the best way to get the most diverse group is just to kind of play tag.
Yeah, there you go. Season. That's smart. I love that. I love that.
Well, I'm sad that this is coming to an end, but this was so fun to learn about everything that you're doing. And I'm honestly like I said, I'm just blown away. I just think it's so cool to see like how far you've come. And I know it's a ton of work, but I only see good things coming. So
thank you.
Yeah. If you were following along and counted up my questions, head over to TikTok at the Artist10 Podcast and comment how many you think I got. I will not guarantee there'll be 10, but we will follow this week with a total. And if you're an artist, designer, or creative, please leave us a question in the same comment and we'll pick a few to read and answer on the show next time. And that's a wrap. No worries though, we will return with more inspo, know-how, and creative collabs for your hearing pleasure. In the meantime,
Tag along with us on Instagram at Heart House Creative or TikTok at the Artist10 Podcast. And do us and you a favor by clicking that follow button to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you feed your brain from. Till next time, I'm Jenn Hart. Keep creating, Heartists. This episode of the Artist10 Podcast was recorded in the Wild Collective studio. Thanks for letting us disrupt the disruptors for a few hours, Whit. The show was produced by Heart House Creative. Photos and video content were captured by Shahab Zargari at Shahab Zargari on Instagram. Learn more about this episode's featured artist, Whitney Bansin, by following Whitney Bansin and the Wild Collective on LinkedIn, at Wild Whit on Instagram, or at We Are the Wild Co. on all your favorite social channels. Rep your team and look incredible doing it by picking up one of Whit's designs at We Are the Wild Co.